It's DCUO Decoded. Today we're doing an update on the Purified Pages of the Black. There's been a hot fix to it. Jugs, do you want to tell the audience what we found in our testing? What's the exciting changes?
Yeah, so the hotfix that was released with Game Update 162.2 on October 28th was for the Edict of Violence. So this reduced the internal cooldown of activation from 13 seconds to 11 seconds, as well as adjusting so the buff can no longer stack with itself. From our previous testing and in our last video, you did hear me state and probably slightly complain that when you were running this weapon buff to increase your precision, you could not run it off cooldown because the buff would not refresh like it does with a typical weapon buff. With the release of this new artifact prior to this update, that was not the case. You did have to wait the entire 14 seconds before you could refresh, so you did have to count to 1 or 2. In our last video, we stated that you could just perform a weapon mastery after the cooldown had ended, and then it would be time to refresh that buff. So we did do the additional testing with this hotfix and can confirm that this buff now lasts for the full 12 seconds, and you can refresh it as soon as your cooldown has ended for your weapon buff. With this hotfix, now every time your weapon buff is off cooldown, you can use it and it will just refresh the weapon buff and the bonus weapon buff from the artifact as it should.
That's exciting news.
Yes. Very exciting. So the only other thing I would say I noticed during our testing was a better refresh rate of the immunity. So I did notice when we were testing this that the immunity could now be refreshed roughly 1 second before the other immunity ended. So when you're alternating between your weapon buff and the shield, when you get to the 11-second mark or the 4-second mark, you can pop the other immunity and you will get a double animation of the white lantern symbol above your head, indicating that you successfully refreshed that buff, and you did it kind of at the sweet spot timing because you have both symbols above your head for just a second or so, and so you can keep the immunity up almost indefinitely that way.
Would you like to address any of the feedback that we received?
Yes, I would like to address some of that. I do want to say that video was more geared towards the average player, not somebody who is always chasing the top of the damage boards, although I would say we do run with those types of players rather frequently. So if you are always wanting to chase the top of the leaderboards, I do think this is a meta-changing artifact in the sense of the additional might and or precision that you get is quite large compared to any other artifact available. I do stand by what we said in our last video though, that this is primarily just a raid only artifact. After additional testing and gameplay though, I have seen you successfully run it in the alert, our daily alert, and you don't seem to have a problem staying alive even without a healer, but you are in and out of combat pretty frequently in that raid or in that alert.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's great testing.
I will say that when I go into the little maze with the orange lanterns, I don't love having the book on because I don't run with a shield as a DPS,
Yeah, and I think that makes a big difference, right? If you're going to use a shield or not. And that will determine whether the buff is worth it for you, I think.
1,000%.
And as one of our other viewers pointed out, even if you are running the 100% immunity where you are not fully maximizing the damage output, it's still probably a net gain as far as damage goes. So you would be able to run this in the duo, and you would be able to run this in the alert as well as raids. So although I do think it is primarily a raid artifact, I think you could get away with it in all of your solo or daily content as well, except for the solo, because you are turned into a white lantern. But it should work in the majority of solos prior to this content.